positivity going.
Yeah. It's time for the super positive happy hour with you and me. Well, welcome back to this week's podcast. Today's podcast is going to be brought to you by scented eyelashes and holding the Bible upside down.
Positivity. This week's podcast is also brought to you by Boomer Freakouts and Police Bunkers.
Ooh, I'm your host, Madison.
I'm your other host, Jesse James. Did one of the, I don't know, I guess less offensive videos that was still like highly offensive in context was that old man on a bicycle wrenching flyers away from a little girl in anger and then stomping back to his bicycle. That dude, I forget his name. It was like Howard Mathis the Third. It was some stupid name like that. That was a big piece of like, I don't know. The comments on every section of everything on the internet are maybe the worst they've been in like history right now. Mm-hmm. But there were not a ton of people. Nobody, I think, could defend that video because like it's sort of just a guy being a dipshit. But also instead of defending the video, there were just a long list of comments saying that it was like a false flag movie, which if that's the level of false flag that people think is being done, they've really dropped their standards on everything.
Yeah. There's been quite a few videos in the last couple of weeks that are pretty damn indefensible. But people find a way. They sure are. They sure are doing that. Particularly, of course, there's a bunch of videos. People are actually making compilations of like specifically the police instigated violence, which is good to have.
There's no shortage of it.
Yeah, not at all. One video that got a lot of views, I guess, or was circulated a lot this week was the one of the old man in Buffalo. It was in Buffalo, right?
Yeah, because that's where the solidarity from the police kicked in.
Right. Yeah. An old man, I think in his 70s, he was up there, approached police officers peacefully. I read someone saying that he had the helmet in his hand and it looked like he was trying to give it back to them. I don't know. I can't confirm that because I saw the video once and I'm not watching it again.
I don't care if he was grabbing the cop's collar and saying, "Now you suck my dick, young man."
I mean, yeah, obviously it doesn't matter. It's indefensible, but what ends up happening is one of the cops like pushes him and he slams his head on the concrete and like immediately starts bleeding out of his ears, which, you know, not good, pretty bad. And it's very like it's very graphic video, so I think
it's pretty graphic, and the guy is white, which I think helps a lot.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that part.
Sadly, the like black lady who had her eye shot by a rubber bullet or a pepper bullet. There's been a few people now who have had their eyes shot. Who is laying on the ground bleeding out of her like eye. There's a video of that too, and that sucks. But that video is not really getting around very much because, you know, there's a certain amount of relating to a person that I think people just sort of ignore that they're doing, even if they're trying to advocate for stuff. But hey,
Yeah.
the Seattle news. I mean, there's always upsides to stuff like this, just based on like the fact that it's a group of police and then a much larger group of the populace around the police. So they're always going to be kind of fighting a losing battle if people are against them. But I mean, that's sort of the point of protesting, and the idea of making it so that they can actually just legally hurt protesters instead of get away with it like they're doing now is probably the biggest actual threat to everything. Because right now they can at least do all of these shitty things that hurt people both short and long term and very seriously. But for some reason, everybody's decided that it's fine if they can do that. Including a lot of people with like a couple letters and a couple numbers for a name and no real profile on every social media service possible.
An American flag stock image for the profile photo.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had something to say to that and I just completely lost it.
That's fine. I'm eating.
That's where we're at. That's where I'm at right now.
I'm eating a sandwich stuffed full of pasta.
Ooh. There are no rules.
I am gonna have to go to the store tomorrow. But for now, I'm eating the sandwich full of pasta.
A pasta sandwich. This is my sustenance for today, which is baked hot Cheetos, which are fine. They're good. They're hot Cheetos. So
if they're baked, does that mean they have that weird puff texture, or are they crunchy?
Yeah, they're more crunchy. They're kind of more puffed, I guess, but they're pretty dense is how I would describe it. So the other ones, in my opinion, are better, but these claim to have 50% less fat than regular cheese flavored snacks. I don't know what cheese flavored snacks we're comparing it to, but
yeah, that's sort of a suspicious way of addressing cheese snacks.
Yeah, that's a pretty broad market. There's a few of those.
Most of my bright sides are foods that I make and things like that. Lately, I unfortunately made and ate, or gave other people all of the cookies that I did after our last podcast.
Those looked really good.
But I do have this from yesterday when I was at work. My roommate and I got some mango stuff. And this is just basically a thing full of banana stuff. There's like...
Very nice.
I tried, the only other time I got stuff from this place, I tried a watermelon one of these, and when I realized that it is in fact just like some extra like water to thin it out a bit, and other than that it's just like pure juice and like pulp. It's real good. Their watermelon one is better because watermelon is extremely good, but I wanted some kind of banana thing since I'm not buying bananas during a time when we have to stay inside and like ration out food to some degree, because bananas are maybe the worst rationing food there is.
There's not a whole lot of rationing that goes on with bananas.
No, it's more of a race to see if you can eat the whole set of bananas before they start to get shitty.
Yeah, and then you'll throw them in the freezer and pretend that you'll
see
make
them
banana bread someday.
see them again in like 2 years and identify that they're bananas and get rid of them.
Oh, that's probably why everyone is making banana bread like right off the bat,
Yeah.
because everyone was realizing you have all your nasty freezer bananas that you got to take care of now.
Well, you have to do
Huh.
something if you want that freezer space back, so you know. Uh, I don't know if I've talked about this much on the podcast yet, but I have currently a mold garden on purpose outside that is little like compost cubes uh, that I have set next to the window so I can see the mold things grow on like what's mostly coffee grounds as it like breaks everything down. But getting some real good colors and insects visiting it and stuff like that are pretty exciting.
That's fun. I
Hmm.
I I like mold colors and seeing
Hmm.
what happens. I can't remember the name of the artist, but I saw a while ago an art. What museum was it? Or I don't think it was Seattle. Maybe I just saw this on the internet. But there was an artist that was making like fruit, like molded fruit sculptures out of just beads. You know
Yeah.
what? I can Google this. I have the internet is at my fingertips. I should just Google it right now so we can tell people who this is. Beaded mold, moldy fruit art.
Hmm.
Kathleen Ryan, and they're really cool. And it's like a. Let me pull a picture up. The lemon one is my favorite. I mean, I'll just send it to you. It's
Okay.
probably more fun to look at it that way because my camera will just turn it into like 4 pixels probably. Anyway, it's a really
I'll
cool.
I'll hold it up on my end as well since I think my camera is a little better.
Yeah, it seems to be.
It I don't know. I bought this laptop specifically to do what we're doing, so uh, part of it was in hopes that it would be decent for this. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, what's cool is like if I do hold it up to the camera, it just looks like a very photorealistic moldy lemon.
Yeah,
Like it's very detailed and cool.
but it's neat when you look and you can see all the like actual geometric shit in it that is
Yeah.
clearly not natural. That is an interesting effect.
Yeah.
Uh, I just got information from official, I don't know, third or fourth member of the podcast um, regarding end-to-end encryption on messaging platforms.
Mm.
So this seems like an okay place to let people know some of that stuff because it's something you have to worry about now, unfortunately. I mean, it has been for a long time, but like specifically to avoid
No.
arrest in certain situations for doing nothing, you have to worry about it. So um, I would say if you are near a protest area, this is probably a good idea to think about this anyway, because people don't always care if they're targeting people who are necessarily in the protest, as long as, let's say, you're in Seattle by the Capitol Hill protests, where there are apartments like directly above where they're happening, and the police are, filling your window frame with tear gas every night. Um,
Yeah.
you're still sort of considered in that area if people decide to start tracking your like devices or your messages or whatever. Anyway, so for end-to-end encryption, which is more or less what you're looking for, there's Snapchat, which is one that I've been utilizing a little more lately. Like I've always used it a little bit, but it is sort of a decent one for that. Uh, There's a Signal, which I haven't used yet, but by all accounts, I've heard that it is not fantastic, but it is very good at encryption. So for privacy purposes, that's probably like your go-to just messaging style kind of thing. I like Snapchat a lot, but if you're like needing to get information across, it can be a little futzy for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
WhatsApp is also really good for encryption, and a lot of people have that already. But I think that I don't know. I have heard bits of things about WhatsApp being occasionally a little dodgy, but I don't think it is more so than Signal. I think that those are both pretty good options for that. And then apparently Facebook Messenger, you can enable end-to-end encryption. I wouldn't probably go for that, but that is an option, and a lot of people are going to have that by default. But yeah, so there's a little more information. Snapchat, this is sort of my issue with it and why I would probably use WhatsApp or Signal. WhatsApp is also owned by Facebook, so that's part of why Signal is sort of the top option right now. Snapchat is incredibly resource heavy on your phone, so that's probably a reason to not use it. Yeah. And I will say from experience, not even during the current stuff, but when police action has happened just near me, when they do use their phone scraping type of stuff, it will sap your battery extremely quickly anyway. So having an option that doesn't have a lot of battery necessity is really good. And then I don't know, is there any other pertinent stuff? I don't know. Fuck Zuckerberg.
Just throwing that out there, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Facebook for a moment, so I feel like it needs to be in there somewhere. But I don't know. That's useful to have the information for Signal, and like I think WhatsApp is still a really good option, but a lot of it is because WhatsApp is going to be more widely used by people you know who are previously using stuff. Signal has often been a slightly better, like, it's not like Telegram where it's largely taken over by the alt-right and like shitty like boogaloo assholes because it's I don't know but I don't there's always going to be more people who are in favor of human rights, but it's just where you end up putting your power. So probably Signal is the best spot, and if all of us end up on it, we'll push everybody who sucks off of it eventually, because that's kind of how it works.
Yeah, that's good information to have. Yeah. I hadn't thought about that. It seems like most people in my area, they must be using maybe Signal or Snapchat or something else to kind of organize. Because it's not happening on Facebook. I don't know what I don't want to get like I mean this isn't even really conspiracy theorist, but last weekend I believe there was a protest being organized on Facebook in Lewiston, which is like 20 minutes from here or something.
Okay.
And then like a day later a counter like All Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, whatever protest was set up to be at the same place. So either actually that's not really conspiracy theorists. I think they probably just took it down so that the other protests wouldn't be able to like figure out where they were going to be and when. Yeah. So it seems like places or platforms like Facebook are kind of being used a little bit less. I'm part of one group that was organizing stuff and they had to make it all like private. So
yeah, that's Facebook is where the specifically the like Boogaloo stuff got big. So like they Facebook is weird because they do tend to favor like privacy to some degree, as long as that privacy is against other people and not Facebook itself. So
Yeah.
it kind of relies on the idea that Facebook is just gonna like not sell out. And I would say based on its administration of Facebook, that's not at all how that is likely to pan out. So while I think Facebook is a good place for like organizing in private groups or whatever to some degree, uh, it should never be like your top option. Um, like even just the fact that needing to go on Facebook to do things like completely benign organizing, like for my art stuff, uh, I already didn't like having to go onto it for that. So, like,
Yeah.
sticking people into a civil action, like checking it constantly, like it does benefit Facebook, but like I would rather Facebook did not benefit from, you know, people trying to get rights in general.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, does anyone really like going on Facebook anymore?
I think so. I think a lot of
Well,
people
I
really
guess there
like
are
it.
some very specific people in my life who do enjoy going on Facebook, but
Yeah.
the vast majority of people that I know and respect are
Uh-huh.
not a fan of it.
It's a key component is not just knowing of them, but maybe wanting to see what they have to say.
Yeah, yeah.
Fuck, that's banana eat. Uh, yeah. There's like chunks of banana in there as well. And you know it's
Huh.
banana eat because yesterday it was a lighter color than this.
I was gonna say it's an interesting color. Is it a smoothie? Like a frozen smoothie?
Uh,
Or
it's they have a base in it that I think is like a banana juice, and then it has like it blended into it. So it's basically a smoothie, but they have their own name for it. But it's actually cheaper than most of those types of drinks. It's like $5,
hmm,
but if you get like a like a juice smoothie by name somewhere, that's usually like $8 to $12, and
yeah.
it's not it's not nearly that expensive. I'm inclined to believe it's just a banana and juice, and they just slam it together, and that's what I want. So
Yeah,
works
works
out
for
perfect.
me. Juice sounds really good right now, actually. Hmm.
Yeah, I specifically saved this for like what? Yeah, about 24 hours specifically because it could be like a uh a reward for like getting online and talking about stupid shit.
Yeah,
Uh to be
need to
fair,
motivate myself.
doing the podcast is a reward in itself, but the like collecting a bunch of things together is part of my favorite part. Uh
Yeah, well, I don't know about you, but I'm mostly in this for the ad revenue and the sponsorships from the brands that we have, the
I'm
many
in it. I'm
sponsorships.
I'm in it for the poontang mostly.
Same. Yeah. Me alone in my apartment. I'm really getting some over here.
Now bring on the poontang.
Oh God. Here's a transition that's not gonna be smooth at all. I
Nice.
bought some I don't know why I've been getting served a lot of these ads lately, but they worked finally on me. It's like for the magnetic false eyelashes.
Okay.
And so I have them on right now. I ended up ordering some off of Amazon. Um, but what came in the mail, or they work, first of all. I was like kind of suspicious. I didn't know that would suspicious is not the right word, but I what is the word that I'm looking for? I didn't think the magnetic stuff would work, and it does.
Oh, yeah.
But the eyeliner that it comes with, that's that you're supposed to put on to like make it all attach, is scented, which seems like it shouldn't be, because it goes on your eyeballs or right above your eyeballs.
What do your eyes smell like right now?
That's the weird thing, is it's not even, it just smells like scented. It you know, when things are just vaguely kind of supposed to smell good, it doesn't really smell like anything real or good.
That's
It's
so
just like,
the way individual hand wipes or like makeup remover
yeah,
will often smell like, I guess that smells good.
yeah, it's
Okay.
exactly that kind of smell. So I'm testing them out today to see if all of my eyelashes, my real ones, fall out or something. But
I mean, that'd be a cool look too.
I would try
Uh,
it out. Why not?
Enter the era of Madison Badass Boncho. I think that's a good way to go. You could probably do. I think your hair has the volume to do like a big pompadour or something if you really try.
Yeah, I have tried those in the past. They're pretty fun.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I wanted to, like, when quarantine started, I pretty heavily considered bleaching my eyebrows because I've never done that, and I kind of just wanted to.
Could you just
Um,
do like a stitch across them? Just do like maybe 3 or 4 notches out of each
Ooh,
one.
yeah. Or just bleach like a pattern into it,
Hmm.
like a cow print pattern. That would be awesome.
Got a nice ombre to your eyelashes there.
Exactly. Um, so I'll report back, I guess, next week on how, um, if they work and if my eyes are ruined after this. I think it'll be fine. I'm a little disappointed in the. I got like a package of the eyelashes, and there's like more natural, and then there's a couple in between, and then there's like the crazy, huge, gigantic ones,
Okay.
which I'll probably never use. But
Well, what are the current?
these are the most natural ones. They're the
Okay.
smallest. Also, the only ones that will fit on my eyes. So I probably will only be using these.
Yet, you just gotta work with it.
I just gotta get my eyes bigger, you know?
Ideally, when you do this, your eyelashes will intersect with your eyebrows. That's kind of what you're looking
That's
for.
what we want. And uh, I don't know if it's worth it, because honestly, I think that when I just use mascara, my eyelashes might even be thicker than this, just
Interesting.
normally, because I have dark hair. So, but anyway, it and the little magnets on the lashes are definitely poking into my eye. So if I do this a lot or that, it's because it's in my eye. It feels weird. I don't wear fake eyelashes that often because I'm real shitty at application, which is why I did this.
Mhm.
But
I mean,
I don't know.
you're doing important studies. Uh,
Doing the work out here
there's
for
a fair
real.
amount of people that I know of that will probably end up needing fake eyelashes of some kind for various projects. So having this information will be very useful.
I mean, the fact that they're magnetic is pretty cool. You can like stick them on your fridge and stuff if you really want to.
Yeah.
You could just keep them on anything that's metal. So that's kind of fun. Um, but yeah, the thing that sucks is like these are the so far the only ones that I can really wear without it, or in like attached to my eye, because my eyes are too small apparently. Um,
Damn small eyes. Have you
small eye.
considered? So it's like a magnetic liner that you're attaching it to.
Yeah, and the applicator kind of sucks. So it's
Can
very.
you smear it on your face and then stick other things to your face?
Oh, I haven't tried that. but I'm going to now.
I feel like there's certain applications that might be awesome for that as well.
I think you're onto something there. At the very least, I can put eyelashes in places where they usually don't go. So
have your eyelashes and then a second set.
or like a mouth lashes.
Or just maybe a third right between the two.
Ooh. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea.
I mean, it could also be the world's thinnest mustache.
Oh. Just a lash stash across.
Yeah, can you like kind of comb it so it's like laying to the side?
These are important questions, and I'll try it out.
Also, can you perhaps, when you do try this, if you try this, try it without warning on, say, a Saturday morning?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that would be a really excellent.
I think that's something that needs to be done. I'm pretty sure Evan's not going to watch this, so.
I'm sorry, I'm not here right now, but my friend Magnuson is here.
Yeah. All right. Well, now I have plans for next Saturday.
Yeah. No eyebrows, thin mustache, tall hair. It's
honestly everything I'm sure that Evan has ever wanted in a significant other.
A lot of guys just don't know what they want yet. You know what I mean?
My computer is lagging out, so I didn't hear you, but yes, I do know what you mean.
That's the right answer.
Very nice.
I do want to mention, so the boomer freakouts, I think that that bicycle bitch grabbing those papers. Also, a lot of effort he put into getting those papers out of that little girl's hand. So that was, interesting for a guy who's apparently very into his health, as that guy seemed to be.
He's also a cop, I'm pretty sure.
Really?
I think I read that he is a cop, which makes more sense.
What a douchebag. But I'm surprised you can be the third and also a cop. That seems counterintuitive, but whatever. The whole illusion of cops being working class has kind of gone away, though, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
But there have been plenty of boomer freakouts. Like, I think that is a pretty well-established portion of this whole civil experience so far.
Yeah, see the protests of 2 or 3 weeks ago.
White fragility has never been a bigger thing, which is crazy, because you would think really, when the pandemic stuff started, my initial thought was like, this will probably bring people together. And I think that the only real realization that's come out of all of this that I'm like, I can point to, and I think anybody could agree with, is that this current president, if they're really, really good at one thing, it's making sure that things do not work out well for people with a left-leaning or just generally accepting attitude towards other human beings. That seems like the group of people who are sort of hated the most right now for whatever reason. Not by volume, but definitely by just amount of spite. Mm-hmm. And I don't really understand it. I feel like the main feeling I'm getting from people who are on the side of cops and property right now, and I guess getting everyone sick, that's also on that side now. The main feeling I'm getting is that they all seem like they at least act like they all own property and that they're afraid that's going to go away, which I have no like mental calculation for that other than who cares. And then the other part of it is like, I don't know, some like imaginary like version of life that they have that everything is fine and has been fine. That's maybe the biggest hurdle, is trying to convince people that it wasn't fine before this started and it hasn't been fine, but nobody wants to just accept that, so whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you've already subscribed to the whole Make America Great Again thing, you're pretty, delusional about our history and the state of things. But yeah, I've seen an interesting, this isn't like a freak out, but I feel like it's kind of on that spectrum. A lot of like white middle-aged, ostensibly somewhat liberal people especially like on my Facebook timeline, posting like drawings of a white hand and a black hand like clasping, and there's flowers, and like a white man and a black man, or just a random person of color like hugging, and they're like, we need more of this. This is what's gonna solve things. And like, that is obviously a form of suppression.
Yeah.
Because you're, instead of actually fucking listening to people, you'd rather pretend that we're gonna hug our way out of this, which has never done anything for anyone.
It may as well have a message underneath those clasping hands that are like, let's just go back to the way it was.
Yeah,
like,
it should basically just say, shut up, please. You're making me uncomfortable, and I don't like it.
Just, I was uncomfortable for a week.
Yeah.
That's the extent of like white people's ability to deal with that, I guess. Mm-hmm. On the same ticket, though, I have had friends talking about how, like, I don't know, there's a lot of false equivalencies from everybody about everything, which I think is pretty standard for, like, reactions in general to, like, things that change your stress levels and things like that.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people who haven't, say, been in years of therapy and things like that, that can be very surprising when it happens. And I feel like I'm in a position to maybe understand a little bit of, like, how that mindset hits just from prior experience. And the thing that I've been getting a lot of is people saying, like, how it'll be couched in something like, how have Black people dealt with this for so long? Which is one of those questions that's like, I don't fucking know. Like, how am I supposed to answer that? Yeah. But on the same idea, it hasn't been like exactly this. It's more of a, like, how can you expect nothing to happen when people grow up with different expectations while being told that the expectations are the same by the people who are oppressing them? Like, that's actually probably the question that we should be not really even asking, but, like, internalizing so that we can be different about it. Mm-hmm. That's probably the biggest, like, disconnect I've seen in people who otherwise I will agree on pretty much, like, all of their mainline opinions of, like, this needs to, like, get fixed in some way or another in a way that we can continue making it better constantly. It's sort of the Sanders presidential approach of, like, we need to get to a spot where we can start moving in the right direction. Like, that's more the mindset that people need to have, as opposed to I don't know, the stress mindset of like it's the stress mindset of being broken up with, which is probably the easiest one for me to go to since I've had such a rocky history with like how I react to that kind of shit. Where it's like, if you think everything's fine and then you're informed that it isn't fine, that isn't a big like shift for everybody, but your shift is the important one because you haven't been thinking about it. And like it does feel very victimizing, and depending on how that information comes across, it can be a little bit, but the information has been coming across for way longer than any of us have been alive. So like there's no excuse for not understanding it at this point. It's just not wanting to look at it. So the like, you know, when somebody is all of a sudden very noticeably angry and your reaction is, well, we had ice cream yesterday, you can't really like use that as a like focal point for reality. You have to use that as like where you weren't paying attention. I don't know if that's useful.
Pretend that, and to pretend that there needs to be more, I don't know, a lot like the posts I was talking about on Facebook, very just empty gestures of like, oh, we need unity, we need to like talk to each other more, which is true, but you're not acknowledging the actual reality of the thing. You're not interacting with what they're saying. You're just silencing it and like willfully ignoring it, basically.
Right. Yeah, it's the internet version of signaling that you're done listening almost. And I think that people who are in a position where this has affected them for a long time, like especially Black people, but a lot of people who just like have been upset about this kind of stuff, see that as what it is, like that communicating, can we stop, like that kind of thing. And when they get angry about it, I think it just makes those people withdraw more or start like pulling away from that whole idea. Even the most like liberally minded people that I've talked to recently, there is a certain amount of like, there is that like, let's just group hug appeal that everybody kind of wants. And like with the whole pandemic thing, that doesn't work. Like you can't just say like, well, let's just be careful.
We will
like,
make it through
happen.
this. And yeah. I mean, I might be, like you said, I think I'm also one of those people who have just been upset about it for a while. And so it's I'm sensitive to it and I can like spot that. But also I'm probably, I'm so far in the other direction of we need to burn the shit down that to me, and that's just, you know, my personal opinion, but yeah, it comes across to me very like, don't talk. We'll figure it out.
I'm occasionally very happy that I grew up thinking that I was like incredibly ugly, because it gave me the ability to think of other people as like having their own agendas and not really being part of the group, which sucks for a lot of things, but it makes it way easier to like kind of start understanding how people feel when they're just pushed completely out of something. Like I don't know, there's a lot of like misanthropes in high schools and stuff who I think when this stuff started, they saw it happening and just kind of went, oh, right, yeah, of course.
You're like,
and like, I don't know, it sucks, but it's also the right thing to do, and not just the right thing to do for like civility or whatever. It's the right thing to do, like, for everyone. Like, all these people who are fucking pissed off because their life isn't as cool as they thought it was, like, they're the same people who talk about the oil industry and they're like, well, it's just like how we have to do it. And then we get all of this information about, like, literally just murdering people all the time in other countries. And they're like, well, we're still a really awesome country, though. And it's like, nah, it hasn't been true in our entire lives, in your entire life, too, most likely. Like, it's just, it's frustrating to see that yet another thing where you have, like, lots of relatives and lots of friends and lots of people who are just, like, entrenched in that idea of, if I'm a part of it, it's probably pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The American exceptionalism is really, I'm really struggling with that whole idea right now. Because I have family who are in that camp, and like I don't understand. I don't have the words. I don't understand that mindset, especially in this in the context of this situation.
Mm-hmm.
Like I saw some, actually, tell me if this was something that you posted, a post comparing the, like, police inflicted deaths between different European countries and the US. And I don't remember the numbers, but the point was that the US had, like, thousands, and I think it was compared to, like, Iceland, which had one, I think, in its history. Oh, and it was also talking about the different lengths of time that their policemen are trained, and it's like years or 6 months or like a long time. And of course we have I don't remember what it was. It was like weeks.
I think it's like 8 weeks. It's something ridiculously short.
That sounds right.
I don't think this is a post that I put up either, but I've definitely seen some of this stuff. And
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, actually, I guess I can agree that we are exceptional, but it's just not in the way that you want it to be. I just got a whiff of my eyelashes. If I blink really hard, I can smell them.
That's pretty awesome.
I don't like it.
Let me just write that down for our titling.
Jesus. I also wanted to direct people to a YouTube channel called For Harriet. Have you ever seen her videos? I shared one on Facebook like a week ago.
It's likely, but with all of the groups and names that have been coming up lately, it's hard for me to identify it without looking at it.
Yeah. She her name is Kim, and I don't know what state she lives in. I think she's in Texas. Okay. She's a Black woman. I don't know what her business is, but she's also like a small business owner, which is cool. But she has this YouTube channel where she just talks through her own, she does like a YouTube live, and she kind of just gives her thoughts on like Black issues and feminist issues and a lot of other political stuff. But she had recently she put out a video responding to all the people who were concerned about the looting and like the destruction of property. First and foremost, it's her video is like an hour and a half. I think it's really good, and everyone should watch the whole thing if they can. But I just had a couple of quotes from it that I thought were really good that I wanted to read. So, one thing she said was, This is not about the moral failure of individuals. This is about structural failure. This is about institutional failure on multiple levels. And then she also had one that is, she talked about the people who were comparing the like open the economy protests from a couple of weeks ago to
I wish
these.
more people would talk about that, honestly.
Yeah, and she had a really, really good quote on that, which was the idea that people are trying to juxtapose what's happening now in the Black Lives Matter protests versus what happened with the Open the Economy protests. Um, those protesters are not better behaved or more legitimate than what we're seeing from Black folks and supportive allies. Those people do exactly as much as they need to do to get their concerns heard. If they needed to loot and set shit on fire for their concerns to be heard, they would be doing that. But they don't have to do that because we see white grievance and white anger as valid.
Mm-hmm.
She, yeah, she's just very well spoken. And I would encourage everyone to go watch her videos. She's super smart and awesome. But
yeah, I don't know. There's been a lot of people getting, hopefully in perpetuity, a little more platforming for like opinions and stuff like that. Because I know just through very brief like pushes into things like Black Twitter, you see a lot of extremely smart people talking about this stuff for years and years. You just,
yeah,
like, those platforms and stuff literally keep you out of those loops unless you put yourself in them, which honestly it's not even like a structural thing of those platforms. It's how people interact with each other. And the more people we get getting voices into other people who cares face, the more that's going to intermingle with everybody who interacts with those people. And that's sort of the idea, is like making that like connection between everybody. Like if you want a real handshake that's going to help, that's the one that's actually going to move people forward, is desegregating the way that we talk to people, as opposed to like continuing to, I don't know, like following people online doesn't seem like it matters that much until you realize that all the people you follow online are like one color and your opinion base is completely sapped from all of that. But I don't know. And preaching morality online is sort of a losing battle no matter what you're talking about, but it is one of those things that people should be aware of.
Yeah, the way that she talked about the rioting and the protests, I really loved everything she said, and I'm kind of gonna butcher it, but she was she made the point that it's pretty useless to try and ascribe any sort of morality to the riots and protests right now, because it's an expression of rage, and it's the only way that it's working. Like, it's the only way that they can make themselves heard. And like, just as a separate side note, Target's gonna be fine. Like, I don't know why we're so concerned about that, but yeah, she also made the point of like, there are people who are saying, oh, but it's just like outside agitators, and it's just like the white people doing the looting. And she's like, no, we do have videos of Black people also doing the looting, but like, what's your point? Because
it feels very in the same vein of like exoticizing people. The like I don't know, it's really hard for people to grasp the racism of like the noble savage like storyline. And that feels like what people are doing with this, of like, well, no, they're very moral people, these people who aren't like us, they're just kind of stupid. Like, they don't get things the way we do. And I think that second part of them being under you is the part that people don't get. Like, the way that people have treated non-white people as white people, especially in this country, is always that way of like, no, we love them, but really they're just saying that they appreciate some of the stuff they do for the stuff they do, not that those people matter. Like, the easiest thing, and maybe the one that people all across the board could agree on, is like, look to all of your anime dorks. Like, those people largely don't give a shit about the country or nation of Japan. Like, that's not actually something that they care about the politics and the people of, but they do really like the things that they get from it, so they're going to be in support of it. And a lot of like standing up for other cultures kind of boils down to that, where like I feel like this is a lot of like self-confessional today, but my artistic journey when I started doing larger pieces and like getting more into the professional space was started largely with wanting to make masks. Like, I was really into like a lot of different masks from different countries and what they represented. And that was a big part of like my push when I got to college. And when I got to college, that was when I started to understand why, when you see like a weird old rich person and they have masks all over like their study or whatever, that's sort of a bad sign in a weird way. Like, there is a way of like almost, I don't know, like British museuming people, of just being like, well, I really like this thing and I appreciate it. And it's like, you can appreciate it, but you don't necessarily like have anything to do with that culture. So one of the big lessons that I had to kind of drill into myself at that point, and am still constantly having to like remind myself of, is when I make masks, they need to be for me. They can't be somebody else's mask, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and that sounds kind of like artsy, hippie language, but it isn't. Like, that's sort of the misunderstanding of like appropriation and stuff like that people always get, is that like, well, I really like this thing, and I like Mexicans, right? Like, they have great food, or whatever else you want to throw in to that kind of thing. If you're not actually like trying to look at those people as people instead, it doesn't matter. Like, you're not learning anything except like something that you could read out of a history book, and that doesn't make you not racist, you know? Plenty of people read about...
At your best, it makes you a fetish, like fetishizing, basically.
Right. You get a pass on your your body pillow, though, because, you know...
I did not purchase it, although I did make the choice to continue owning it, so...
Also, I don't think that's actually a bad thing. I just find it very funny.
I also find it funny.
If you want to meet Madison's body pillow, I believe it shows up in the last episode.
Oh, I think it's over here, actually. Could make a reappearance.
I looked into that show that it's from. Yeah. I haven't seen that show, but
it's pretty good.
I looked at the description of it and read some stuff about it, and I've definitely heard of that show, but I have never seen it or anything like that. I just had heard of that storyline. I think that it was parodied in something I watched. Like, there was another anime that made references to it, and that's the only way I'd really heard about it.
Yeah, that anime in particular was kind of my first, I think that's like the first anime I ever watched, because I was hanging out with some of my Japanese relatives, and when I was really young, and they were watching it, and I wasn't allowed to watch anime really. I just don't think my mom really knew what it was, and so she was like, let's just not.
Well, you're saying your dad doesn't watch anime? He doesn't stick up for you?
That's his favorite pastime, is watching anime. No, but my first experience with that show in particular was my relatives. They made me learn like the opening dance with them, so we could put on a show for our family. It was fun.
That sounds like if a video of that had existed, it would be very embarrassing and very enjoyable.
I'm sure. I don't think any video exists.
That's every once in a while a video of me doing dumb shit that I thought was dope when I did it will come up, and it's just like, crap.
Yeah. I'm sure I have stuff like that on the internet somewhere.
I dropped a piece of fake meat.
Oh no.
And now it's in the sink.
That's better.
Mm-hmm.
Every once in a while, I keep getting a little thing that's like, hey, your internet sucks. And I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
Not working.
Obviously.
Yeah. Thanks for letting me know.
Over here, it's not nearly as bad as it has in the past. As bad as it has been in the past, where it would like freeze forever. I'm getting like, you will still have audio coming through, but your like face will freeze in a position for a couple seconds and then go back to normal.
Mine does a really weird thing. It actually does this on voice calls too for some reason. Yeah. But it'll like kind of pause for a second, it'll freeze for a second, and then it'll play the part that I missed, but like really fast, like sped up to like get me up to where real life is happening, I guess. But
weird.
It's really weird. Like every once in a while you'll freeze for a second, and then you'll talk really fast like that.
Need like a GGPO for our internet connections.
Yeah. Yep.
Excuse me, I gotta get these pasta scraps.
Oh. Yeah, no worries. I'm gonna have a little hot Cheeto.
It's my new nickname.
From now on. Pasta scrap or hot Cheeto?
Both work.
Pasta scrap is pretty good.
Pasta scrap is more appropriate, I think.
I do like that. So, hey, what did you think about the president tear gassing a bunch of people so he could walk in a straight line from one location to another this week?
It was about as much as I thought about the president not warning a church and then gassing the church. That's probably about as highly as I thought of that. I don't even
very
like
Christian.
Church.
How Christian of him.
Fuck.
Yeah, I don't. The amount of absolute bootlicking happening in the Christian church community right now is unreal. This
is an appropriate time to mention that I found some masks in the house recently. Did you see these masks that I found? I'm holding them like I hold a mask.
It's very, yeah. Also, I have a phone, and this is how I hold it.
Do you see it?
And a hot Cheeto.
These are things that I like and hold often.
I sent my mom a clip from an interview that I think he did during that chunk of time when he was standing in front of a church. And I think he was asked the question, like, what's your favorite Bible verse? And he was like, that's a very personal question, and I don't really want to answer it because I like, I don't want to get into it because it's personal. And then they were like, please name one Bible verse. He was just like, no, it's personal. And they were like, so are you an Old Testament guy or a New Testament guy? And he goes, I think I like them both equally. They're both very good. Um, and then he went on to compare the Bible to the art of the deal, which just I don't.
Here's this book that I scammed a bunch of people with. It's like the Bible.
Pretty much, yeah. He was like, I love the Bible. It's my favorite book. A close second is my own book. Okay. But, yeah. That is, I saw actually someone on my Facebook timeline shared a video of a lawyer talking about that. And he was getting very emotional and basically, like rightfully so, and saying this is something that really only happens in like very authoritarian countries or under authoritarian governments. He literally just gassed a bunch of people because he wanted to walk in a straight line from the Rose Garden where he was giving his speech to the church. It was just like for his own ease because he didn't plan ahead.
Like, honestly, I know that there's let's call it a stigma against threatening political figures. So, like, that's not what I'm doing. But I'm just saying the hopes that I have are that if he's no longer president in, say, like 9 months-ish, that people just slap him in the face constantly for the rest of his life. Because there has to be some kind of, like, group hatred towards somebody who has just done this much harm to everybody. And I do think that there are good things that could come out of this, maybe, potentially, if people continue to care about organizing and, like, just being, like, unified in some way. But it doesn't excuse the fact that, like, I don't know, the argument of, well, we put him here, like, that, I don't care. Like, it doesn't excuse the fact that one person sucks. Like, just because there are a lot of racists doesn't mean that your racist, like, cousin or whatever is fine.
Yeah. Oh, and also, we didn't put him there. Like hundreds of year-old voodoo math put him there.
Exactly.
Not us.
Yeah, there's some kind of fucking garbage, whatever we feel like the math will be this time that got him there. Unsurprisingly, the same math that got fucking George Bush Jr. there and all of that shit. Like,
interesting.
For some reason, people who don't appreciate the will of the people don't appreciate having actual, like, legitimate elections either. But I feel like our elections that are coming up, that's really the only option we have. The only other option would be that everyone writes in somebody else. Honestly, like, I think if everybody who refused to vote for Joe Biden or Trump wrote in Bernie Sanders, there's still a chance that that would work. But there's no media and no, like news outlet of any kind is going to push something like that as a possibility. They're all going to say it's just going to put Trump back in office or it's going to put Biden in office. So it doesn't matter if you want that. they're just going to tell you whatever it takes to make enough people not do it. So
yeah, I'm really so incredibly exhausted by just the fatalistic viewpoint of like, oh, that's unrealistic. Like that probably won't happen. There's no point in, because if people just did it, it would happen. Like I was on the phone with a relative talking about the protests and like some of the not demands, but like some of the things, the eight, what is it called? The eight. Do you know what I'm talking about? The eight things that they were.
It's demands in essence. It's meant to be like our requirements for peace.
Yeah. The person I was talking to was like, that's so far-fetched, like that'll never happen, and there's no point in even, you know, trying or talking about it, because it's like, it's unrealistic. And that's been thought about everything else that's ever happened in our history, like women having the right to vote, or you know, slavery not being a thing anymore. Like that's always been the thought process behind those things, and I'm just tired of hearing it.
Yeah, and the idea that we got an election snaked out from the left in favor of somebody who has been pro-segregation and pro like men's rights essentially, and pro all of the shit we're fighting against right now, for his entire career. And now people are trying to like convince everyone that nah, he's cool, he's good. And the other option that was clearly the option that we pushed out, he was literally marching with Martin Luther King. Like, what better version of like just general accountability are you going to get than somebody who already tried 50 years ago and is trying again with the same intentions? Like, that's, if you want consistency, that's exactly what you want. But instead, we get this fucking garbage option who's only there to try and like de-seat somebody who's pissing on everybody.
Yeah.
Well, I guess gassing everybody, but you know.
Yeah. And I'm fully on board with the idea that people can change their mind and grow. But like you just said, there's like other options. You don't have to give that person a chance as president of the United States. I'm totally fine with someone having a past of whatever fuckery he was involved in, you know, turning over that leaf or learning and getting better. That's fine. But we don't have to put that person in office. We could choose a person that was never a problem for. But no.
It all just feels like that fucking Kavanaugh bullshit of like, the argument isn't did he, you know, double team somebody in college. That's not the argument. And that seems to be what everybody's talking about. The argument is, if he's a rapist, which there's indications that he is, shouldn't that be a good sticking point to talk about all this other shit that makes him not the best candidate in the entire country?
Exactly.
And instead, people were like, well, no, he likes beer. That's not a problem. And it's just this whole, like, that's not the issue. Like, and the other options that we've had that he replaced were largely people who were not left-leaning, really. They were just sort of the shitty, lukewarm centrists that would have kept things even. Instead, you have to have this person who will vote like against abortion rights and stuff just because he's spiteful towards people who want abortion rights.
Yeah, that coalition of people who were just really willing to what's the saying? Hitch their horse or hitch their wagon. That's what I mean. Hitch their wagon to like the worst person and go down with them. Just proving themselves to be so fucking spineless and brainless. I won't understand that ever, because that, like you said, that's not the argument. It's not about like, we're not litigating whether or not this person did this thing. We're saying, hey, if that's a question, probably there are better options.
Well, and it's like with that the police stats of like everybody kind of got wise fairly quickly to the black on black crime garbage narrative that people were trying to push.
Yeah.
But once that went away a little bit, it's still out there. The new thing that everybody is saying in response to anything that's like protesting, which you shouldn't need to like stand up for protesting. That should be everybody's like good for that. And instead it's like a weird partisan thing again. And the fucking twice as many white people are murdered in the US as black people is the new narrative.
Oh my god, yeah. I've heard that.
As soon as anybody mentions like how many black people do you think there are in this country? People just like jump ship and go yell the same thing at somebody else. Like just
think about it for 2 seconds. Yeah. Think about it. Yeah, that doesn't. Also, I mean, that's dumb. But I also, people love to ignore the whole. Sorry, there's a bug. The fact that this is all very systemic, and like black communities are way, way, way over police compared to white communities. And like, if you think for 1 second that crime's not happening in like the very white suburban areas, you're an idiot.
And if things keep going the way they're going, I'm going to be doing the crime in those very white suburban areas. Like, that's just what it's going to turn into. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I do get the narrative behind it, but it's extremely disingenuous.
It's very sheltered, and you're not thinking through things.
Start going out there and finding every big wooden sign that says like the chalky snow community and having my own private riot in those neighborhoods. Did you ever see the neighborhood that our mutual ex-boss lives in?
No.
That's not an entirely white neighborhood, but that's a like very upper class neighborhood, let's say. Mm-hmm. And it's literally one of those neighborhoods that is like you have to go up a steep hill that most people wouldn't even bother with unless they're in a car, and the houses don't start until you're a ways up, and then it's just like super wide streets and these like houses where you can see everything around you surrounded by woods on top of a hill. That's what like those communities feel like all the time, of just like nobody's getting in here. But I don't know. The fact that people think it's okay for that to be the way that they live, but it's also okay for people to be shoved into apartments with like 4 other people they don't know because that's all they can afford. And that's just how life is because they didn't try hard enough. Like, sucks.
It does. Yeah. And actually, that's one thing that Kim in her videos talked about, is the idea of you can't address the racism in our country without also addressing capitalism.
Right.
Because they're, they feed into each other.
I could make a separate podcast that's just me angrily yell talking at people about communism. I could just record all my phone calls with relatives and stuff where I'm trying to sugarcoat communism so that they understand that it's not coming for them or whatever. People who are reasonable, too, just do not have the ability to get over this weird American programming of like, no, that's what bad people do. I think that narrative of communism has killed blank people, and it's more than anyone ever killed, and it's like, nah. Authoritarianism killed people, but like we don't want to look at other countries that rule themselves as communist countries or close to it now, because that wouldn't be proving your point.
Mm-hmm.
It's not worth yelling at you about, but
I'm not bothered by it. I just sometimes you just need to yell about things. Yeah.
Yeah.
What a time. Yep.
If everybody, let's say over the age of 50, died suddenly, I think that would help. How old is the average cop?
I don't know. If this is just Madison's guess, I would say maybe like late 30s, 40s.
Yeah, that seems like a cop age to me.
That sounds, yeah. Yeah. I also saw a funny tweet. I'm going to tell everybody on our podcast about a funny tweet that I saw.
I love funny tweets.
Yeah, me too. Actually not funny at all. Really sad, but it was something along the lines of it was talking about the statistic of 40% of police officers have been what's the right word? Maybe not convicted, but have like domestic violence charges. And they were just pointing out that like if 40% of literally any other profession was, bad at those numbers, or like, yeah, at 40%, that would not be acceptable in any other profession. Like healthcare workers, oh yeah, 40% of them might kill you. That we wouldn't let that fly.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
I mean, we all know at least a couple people who've been punched by a dentist, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's fine. That's just going to the dentist.
It's part of the process.
Yeah, like, every once in a while somebody gets strangled by their obstetrician. It's just a danger of going to see them. It's not that it's necessarily like all of them are bad. And they don't die usually.
Yeah.
And Joe Biden said that he's going to encourage them to just kick them in the leg instead. So it's fine.
So disappointing.
Uh-huh.
So disappointing.
Really standing up for the people there. That's a good preview of like most presidents are in the stage now in their election where they're promising like, I'm going to make it a utopia. You're just like, I'll shoot him somewhere else. That's fine, right?
Yeah, like that. You really didn't even try with that one. Oh my God. Did you see the pictures of Mitt Romney at the protest?
The selfies of Mitt Romney at the protest? Yeah.
I saw some fucking journalists on Twitter reposting that and saying, come on, guys, just take the W. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's what's wrong with this picture, is that we're not taking the W of fucking Mitt Romney at a protest chanting Black Lives Matter.
I mean,
You're right. That'll solve everything.
He didn't blur any of the faces in that photo. Maybe he should have considered some of that too, if he cared about people there and not his selfie. That's like if I am bringing goods to the protesters and you get a picture from me over Twitter, I guess, of me like, whoa, like standing in front of like some water. It's like, look what I'm doing.
Yeah. And then that guy.
Sorry, I just had
to. Excuse me while I walk into the other room, pull my scented eyelashes off of my face and swallow them in anger. Oh, and then that journalist who was like, "Take the W, guys. Mitt Romney is on your side." Someone responded to that and was like, he basically just corrected him and is like, "This doesn't mean anything for us. It basically just means that they've co-opted the phrase so that they can say it and then masquerade as like the good guy, basically." Yeah. And then that person, the journalist, responded, "Wow, that was so masturbatory of like how you said that." And I'm like, your fucking post is masturbatory.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it. Take the W. Yes. The nerve.
Just the nerve.
The nerve.
Please just enable these assholes to start acting like they care about black people because they went outside for a minute. Where's Mitt Romney putting through legislation for protecting black people in Utah? Like,
honestly,
if they care about him so much, they wouldn't be just taking photos outside. They would be doing their job.
I mean, I can't remember how many likes or what interaction it got, but it went viral. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see. It might be too late, but a possible presidential run from Mitt Romney because he did one good post. I'm just kind of waiting to see that come out of the woodwork. I wouldn't be surprised.
Mitt Romney's the one who, what, like 5 years ago? Something like that? No, it was longer ago than that. But he was, he did it was like the 48% or some shit like that speech. And he also did
I think he did the Binders of Women. I think that was him. Or was that Joe? I can't remember.
God, I don't remember. Who cares, I guess. But he did a speech about how rich people are good, actually, and poor people are bad. Like, he's been doing that stuff his whole career. Like, Mitt Romney is a hack, and he's got good visibility, and he did say the president wasn't as good as everybody said that one time, but so did fucking Jet Plane Joyride, the guy who ran for president with Sarah Palin. Like, who cares? They're just jackasses. They're not good at anything except being white, and people love them for it.
Being white and having like the barest of minimums of a conscience, and
at least performatively, yeah.
Performative conscience and accountability to your fucking constituents. Like, which is, by the way, their job. They get paid to do it.
Yeah. And you can already see there's this weird sort of, I don't know, it's a anti-collective bargaining thing that's starting to happen in some of the messaging I'm seeing just the last couple days. People are now talking about the police union a little bit more, and some people are drifting in the direction of, well, this is why we shouldn't have unions. And it's that thing of like, police are one of the only places that get a union. They have bargaining chips that are the most scary bargaining chips to like white people there are, where people hear like, well, the police are going to be like just not policing as much then, like if you don't want to give us what we want. And people who live in these communities with money and power, that's the scariest thing ever to them, because how are we going to keep ourselves safe from all the not white people who are going to come get us? So like having a police union that gets to do whatever it wants, and then also having the police be sort of an arm of what people use to try and crush actual labor unions. I would argue, in all honesty, that police labor is pretty fucking limited. Like, I know that they have things that they do that are important to a degree, just because there's no one else with that job. But strictly speaking, I don't think police actually work that hard. Like, it's one of those weird, like, situations where they do things that are dangerous, but they chose to do those things as their job. And having a union is supposed to protect you from those dangers, not force your will on people for things that are supposed to just be your job in general. Like, it's very frustrating seeing people talking about unions again and just talking about this fucking police union garbage. That video of the guy in New York who ran the police union threatening everybody that they're just gonna ignore crimes now if you don't do what we tell you. Like, that was apparently a couple years ago or something. And then when the whatever it was that they were arguing against did happen, they did pull back for a while, and nothing happened except fewer people were arrested. There's literally no difference. Like, they proved their own point, but that doesn't matter. Like, nobody's going to actually care about that. And New York's the place that has the fucking $6 billion police budget. Like, Seattle's already got a huge police budget of $350 million that's supposed to go through, like, this week, I guess. And on that same ticket, there is, what is it called? I should check it real quick. It's in the part where I didn't know who the fuck Seattle's mayor was until this stuff started happening, because I live in a small town just outside of Seattle. The stuff that they are doing makes it pretty clear that they are not a fit representative. Mayor Jenny Durkin is a piece of shit. Like, if you want to hate somebody and you're in the Pacific Northwest, that seems like a decent person to hate. The 2020 proposed budget, the most paid out thing is the police department at $357 million. Like, that's what they want to budget that with.
Wow.
For reference, Human Services is supposed to be getting budgeted at $195,000. Wait, no, $195 million. So at least that's like a little over half. But civil rights projects are on this budget, and that's being budgeted for $46,000. Nope, sorry, $4,600. There we go.
Okay.
There's a slight discrepancy between $4,600 for civil rights projects and $350 million for the police budget.
And this is for Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle, the liberal utopia that people like to fucking talk about.
What's $4,600 gonna get you in Seattle of all places? Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing. That if anything, that is like somebody wants an office to supply a couple artists with murals or something. It's nothing.
For like a month. That's like a month's rent.
Like, It's literally like that's some like if you wanted that to go towards something, that's like 3, maybe 4 murals and supplies. And when you think about like that's the amount of weight that our local government is willing to put behind civil rights, that's pretty fucking stupid. But also,
it's
like,
insulting.
Yeah. Also, the fact that it is very noticeably underfunded and the police are very noticeably overfunded, like, it's just another one of those things where people in like the last decade just talk about how like Seattle is what Kurt Cobain and then Amazon happened, and it's like
and Frasier.
Yeah, Frasier I guess is in there. Amazon is terrible. Frasier's fine. Kurt Cobain was a good artist, but you know, you only live to 27. You don't have the chance to be a bad artist. So, but the amount of damage that Amazon has done to this area, I think there's no easier way to point to it than that fucking police budget. Like, why else would we need that many police? We don't have shit. Like, we have a population here that is so like meager compared to other big cities. Like the fact that we're on a list of sort of big cities is still like questionable. And having like that much money go to the police here is crazy. Also the like streams of the like the unbroken streams of the protests in Capitol Hill, like they literally have like rolled out like military vehicles now when they have their like police presence there, and it's there's been a lot more talk. Well, so now that the police are all getting tired because they're going to their job and their job is now this, which good, like there's a lot of us so we can do this for a long time. The up and downside to that is the police are getting really exhausted and cranky and like not wanting to do what they're doing to a degree, but they're also getting meaner and they're also looking at ways to like even the playing field. So two of the things that have happened in the last few days is they basically built the Capitol Hill police station that I used to live like a block from into a bunker. They drove in like giant barricades made out of concrete and like steel plating and like made it a bunker. And they also have been talking a lot more online. I don't know exactly which police forces are using this, but I'll go ahead and send you a picture from the live streams of shit that they have going on. It'll go under that majestic lemon. Let's see. That's a good image, and a clearer image would be nice. I think. Yeah, that should show it. So this is from last night, I believe. So the top of that truck is it's a big dish. It looks exactly like, and probably is, a long-range acoustic device, an LRAD, which is a product that is made by I forget the original name, but it's now called LRAD, like Incorporated or some shit. That device is a sound weapon that is partially used. I mean, it's in the name, long-range acoustic device. What it's generally used for is it can, I want to say it's like 60 decibels that they usually have it tuned to that you can turn it up to. And it's a like a pointed audio device. So you use it to like disperse crowds, essentially. You can use it for announcement, Like, you can basically yell things at people, or you can do tones and stuff like that and, like, just make people move by, like, fucking with them. The problem with those, they're another one of those crowd deterrents that is non-lethal, a lot like the tear gas is considered for whatever reason, even though it also kills people and it's also, like, not allowed in war. The long-range acoustic device problem is that it is sold with certain parameters and, like, by that company. There is nothing keeping people from, I want to say it was like 180 or more decibels that it could be turned up to. And at that point, it causes brain bleeding. It can like fuck up your organs, and it can like blow out your ears entirely. And it can do that in like a few seconds. So like it is entirely not non-lethal. It's absolutely like pointing a gun at those crowds. And it's true that they haven't used it that way yet, but if that is what's on top of that vehicle, and there have been people in like law enforcement talking about having these things for these reasons, as they get more tired, that is actually a thing that is very likely to be used against people. And like that's keeping in mind that things like earplugs are useful for like up to 30 decibels. So like there's not really anything you're going to do about it if you're there.
Yeah.
And the suggestions I've seen in regards to it are like, you just have to be behind something and far away. Like that's the only thing you can do.
Wow.
And the other shitty thing is that it does not affect noise, like it is directional. So like you can just point it at the crowd and the cops can sit there indefinitely and not feel anything. So like you can just make people like incredibly miserable for as long as you want with no effort with something like that. And I did get into like trying to figure out like if there's anything you can do about it, and the only stuff I could find is like technically you can like reflect those kinds of things and like get it away from you the way you would with like the gases and stuff, but the stuff you would need for that is so like unlikely to be available. Like you basically have to have like a human-sized satellite dish in order to get it away from you. So
wow, that is really scary because like you said, they're getting tired, and
also,
it's just gonna.
if you look at those pictures, you see that mural they're standing next to. That's the fucking mural. That's the block with the liquor store across from the arts building. Like that's right next to the park and stuff. That's such a like that's where I would always have to walk across to catch my bus to work. And that's also where I spent like probably 80 to 90% of my time is right there. So having it turn into a bunker where they're like trying to fuck with people all day long, it's not a great feeling. Like
no. Wow. That's really scary. Because you know it's gonna it's only gonna devolve. Like you said, they're just getting tired and angrier. And they're already doing violent things. They're already instigating the violence in most of these protests. So
this isn't a fun story either, but it's maybe a little more ridiculous. So like it was either the first or second day of protests in Seattle. I think it was downtown also. A guy got a video of a cop menacing like a little girl, essentially. I think
spraying her in the face, I think.
So I don't remember if that was fully caught on video. That's the other thing, is I don't know if this is the same girl or not. I haven't seen that video, but it was a very well-known one of those videos going around. Yesterday, 9 police grabbed that guy and arrested him for nothing, and he was charged with essentially having a laser pointer. So that's fun. Laser pointers are also what they use to in the Hong Kong protests. Laser pointers are how they fuck with surveillance cameras and drones, and also how they fuck with snipers. Is you fucking keep them from being able to see properly, because otherwise you're in danger constantly. So, like, the idea of villainizing having a laser pointer, which is another, like, if you want to talk about non-lethal ways of resistance, that's one. But instead, apparently you can get arrested for that. And let's just not talk about the fact that this guy shot that video out of thousands of people, and now it's a problem.
Yeah, the same thing happened to the guy who filmed the murder of Eric Garner, I believe.
Yeah.
That guy also got arrested, and I think is in prison right now.
Cool.
Yeah. I'm sure that's going super well. So, like, that's so very blatantly authoritarian, and so such a very obvious. It's so obvious that they're making shit up to punish these people for basically exercising their First Amendment right of like free speech, and like just filming something that happened. Yeah, that's really scary, and it's not getting enough coverage that's happening. That's terrifying.
Yeah. Are you wearing a full bodysuit?
I am.
Okay. Just making sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's the same thing all the way down.
Excellent. Not really pertaining to anything we're talking about. I was just like, wow, those patterns match well.
Yes. I can only muster to have to do one singular piece of clothing today. That's all I can handle.
That's understandable. You've got eyelashes. Those are both an item of clothing.
It's true. It really feels like an item of clothing on my eyes. Yeah. I also wanted to speak to you about some of these people who are getting upset over the idea of defunding the police, and basically like how I think you said it was in New York where the union was like, oh, well, we're just like not gonna respond, we're just not gonna be there, and then nothing happened. The people who were like, defund the police, like, don't you want to be protected and served? And just from experience of dealing with the police as a person who tried to like report things, it's not super fun, and they do not handle it well. Like, I saw a lot of women on Twitter saying, this makes no like as far as like sexual assault allegations and rape allegations, that shit, this makes no difference to us because they don't believe us, and then they tell us that we don't have a case and there's no evidence.
Also, so I just, as a quick side note, because I feel like that ties in with what you were just saying beforehand, the idea of America having this strong anti-terrorism bent and then allowing police to literally do terrorism in order to control people, that should be obviously not okay to everyone. But the other part of it is the whole idea of police protecting people. Like, so when did you have to deal with police? Like, what was the general circumstance?
I was trying to report an assault, and basically it was very runaroundy. Like, call this person and this person, and very like, we'll get back to you.
And then they did, and it was fixed.
Oh yeah, everything's great now.
They unassaulted whoever got assaulted.
What was that?
They unassaulted whoever got assaulted. They took it back.
Yeah.
It fixed it. Okay. I've dealt with police at least directly in like, I don't know, probably 10-ish circumstances, and none of them have been positive. And I probably told this story before, but I was outside of my apartment in what's that stupid town's name? Paulsbo. I was outside of my apartment with my roommate in Paulsbo at the late time of like midnight, like not that late.
Wow, real night owls.
During college, literally both wearing pajamas. And like I think Natalie was wearing like flip-flops. Like that's the level of like threatening we were. A single cop walked around the back of the vehicle that we were standing next to, which I believe was Natalie's truck, had his hand on his gun and a flashlight, and was like, "Why are you out here?" This is like directly outside of our apartment in a town that nothing happens in ever. Yeah. Everybody goes to bed at 7. And so I think our assumption immediately was like, oh, this must be like people are paranoid about people being outside because everybody's old and lazy and shitty here.
Yeah.
But it that cop told us that there had been a TV stolen somewhere, like pointed off to the side. It wasn't in our complex, and the complex we lived in was up a hill with some like small buildings down the hill, and then a big like empty older people town. Like if there was a TV stolen, like we probably honestly would have heard it, because you can like hear cars drive through everything in town at that time of night. Yeah. And it was clearly some sort of like just going around and seeing if something suspicious is around. And maybe a TV was stolen, but like finding just random people outside and approaching them with your hand on your gun is maybe not the way to handle anything.
Mm-hmm.
Also, like every other time I've had to deal with police, it's been like outside of a grunge show or outside of a like venue of some kind where they're just fucking like grabbing like teenagers and like demanding to like check their pockets and shit, which they're not allowed to do. They can pat you down, but like trying to get into people's bags and things like that. Just downtown Seattle being assholes. Like,
yeah.
There's a long history of Seattle cops being laughably like villainous almost. And this is really showing how much that is true. The enduring image I have of a police person in this area is when I used to take the ferry back and forth from college to all of the like art venues. There was a cop that I saw like 3 times that would just sit in his car outside of the ferry terminals and wait to try and catch people not driving right as they leave. And he literally had an eye patch and a cigar at all times and was just leaning out of his car like some kind of fucking mafia villain from like a 40s thing. Like there's absolutely no level of like respectability to any of the people on the police force here. Even if they're great people, I don't give a shit. Like they should have quit if that's the case, or at least had some sort of like walkout. But I don't know. How are the police in your area? I feel like they would be maybe where you are not as nice, but I feel like they would be in favor of how white it is out there.
Yeah. I personally, other than like that one experience, have not really much other experience with police. I honestly, I'm really not even aware of what their reputation is. I would be wary of them in general, just because we do have a lot of white supremacists here, and
Wait, you're wary of people who learn something called killology? Why?
I don't know. It's so weird. Yeah. Well, also, I mean, what the fuck why is that allowed? That's just, yeah. I'm not really aware of what the public reputation is, but I'm sure it's not favorable. I think everyone here is generally just leave us alone.
I think it says something that I've literally never heard of a good police force. Like, you never hear about police existing in an area. If they're decent, they practically don't exist. And if they're shitty, that's when you hear about them at all. And I don't think that's a messaging thing. I think that's a, like, sort of on purpose kind of thing of just, if the police are around, they would rather do what they're doing. And unless something like this happens, they would rather you just ignore that they're there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. There's something else I was going to mention. I can't. Oh, about that, like, the FBI said years ago that, hey, police departments, here's something you need to watch out for: white supremacists being inside of you.
I think everybody should be watching out for white supremacists being inside them.
Yeah. Be wary of that.
Yeah, don't let it happen.
Don't let that happen, anybody. and yet, I mean, I saw a photo of a cop who had like an SS tattoo on his arm.
Unsurprising, yeah.
Yeah, not surprising, but unfortunate.
Yet we have a negative view of motorcycle gangs. They're the same, like, potentially much better than the police, but we wouldn't trust a motorcycle gang with protecting us from people. And that's about the only other place other than, like, the Aryan Nation where you find SS tattoos.
Yeah.
I also I think it should bring into stark contrast for a lot of people how fashion in the US has gone, where, like, there was a weird push in, like, the early thousands and late 90s, I feel like, where everybody was like, the Iron Cross isn't bad, it's a cool thing. And now, like, I feel like we're seeing the results of normalizing that kind of stuff. Like, it makes it a lot easier for people online to have very blatantly Nazi, like, imagery and stuff and just be like, no, it's just my thing. Like, I just think it's cool.
Yeah, I just like the design.
Yeah.
Actually, speaking of that, there is kind of some uplifting news. I think I saw that the Marine Corps had banned all usage of, like, the Confederate flag on
That's good.
any of their shit. So that's nice. That should be a little bit more widespread. That would be nicer.
Yeah.
Also,
it's weird. We don't use the British flag on our stuff either. I wonder why that is.
Yeah, weird. Huh. Real strange. I saw that, I think in England they threw a statue of some, like, slave trade dude into a river or the ocean. That's okay. Cool.
This is your problem now, fish.
Yeah. I mean, it was very fitting. I can't remember his name. It's really not important what his name is, but he had transported, like, thousands of slaves, and
cool dude.
One reason they threw the statue into the ocean was because that is what he did to any slaves that died during the transport. They just were thrown overboard. So
some cool Amistad shit. That's fun. This isn't a fun story either, but I'm going to, let's just say all the not fun stories that we have this week are hopefully going to be replaced by things that are slightly more fun in the future. But I think this stuff is important to talk about at least a little bit. I'm just sending you this stuff. You can verify by view. I honestly think that a lot of these things are entirely being done to scare people. Like, that's sort of the point, because people wouldn't be this obvious if it weren't. There is a video of this, but unless you are okay with seeing shit like that, it's probably not a good idea to, like, watch it, because you do literally see a person shot in the arm, I guess, like up here. Anyway, the thing that happened was a dude ran a car past the barricades and into the protest area, up to one of the spots where, like, there was a clearing behind where the protesters were. And this comes after the weird street interviews that people were doing, where people were saying that they work for the mayor, and they kept asking for people's full names downtown. I can send you those videos if you want them, but they suck. There's been like 3 people who have been like positively confirmed by a bunch of sources now that they talked to them too. And they claim that they're working with the mayor, but as soon as you question them on it, they say, like, I mean, what I'm doing isn't important. So, like, who knows what they're doing? Like, but it is not great that they are asking people who are reporting and people who are doing certain things, protesting, what their full name is, and trying to, like, ask about a bunch of information and shit. Like, they apparently also were trying to direct people to certain areas, kind of in the same way that I heard. Oh, fuck. I forget the area, but there was not the New York one, the New York kettling incident where they got everybody on the bridge. There was another one of those that was like, I forget the area. It might have been Chicago. Anyway, there were troopers that were like not in any way like provocateurs, just straight up troopers that were directing the march towards the bridge when they got up to it, and then they trapped them all on the bridge and gassed them. So, like, same shit, but they're not arresting them all. They did arrest a bunch of people, but it's just that, like, I mean, they're stuck there. You can go arrest them if that's what you're doing. Like, gassing them all is just putting them in direct danger. But also, like, the fact that it is clearly, like not just a planned out thing, but a very, like, calm, like, this is just how we're going to do this plan, is frustrating. Anyway, the reason why that stuff links to this is because this dude, they don't know who he is. In the video, it's much clearer, but I'll just explain it because I watched it several times. He drives through the barricade, comes up. There is a guy chasing his car who is a street medic. And the car slows down when it gets close to everything, when people start, like, getting around the car. And the street medic reaches in to try and grab the guy because he's going to fucking drive into people, essentially. And when he does that, the guy shoots him in the arm. And the guy gets out and has a pistol with a clip extension on it, which is already illegal. But also not that hard to get. I have a friend who I won't mention who has a laser sight and a clip extension and all this other stuff. You can get that stuff if you want it. You just aren't supposed to have it. He gets out of the car. He doesn't shoot at anybody. He actually has, like, he does point the gun towards other people slightly, but he has I would call it a working knowledge of holding a gun, let's say. It doesn't strike me as somebody who just has a gun for self-defense because they're a shitty person. A lot of those people aren't really that well trained with a gun. This guy's holding the gun and he's got it sort of like down in front of him towards the ground. And then as he gets further away, he moves it to the side and puts it like in his hoodie pocket so that people can't see it eventually. But he gets out of the car, goes around the back, and the street medic who got shot falls over, and like 4 other street medics come, and then people make a chain around it, and they saved him. Like he's okay as far as I know. But the guy, instead of, let's say, trying to leave, goes into the crowd calmly, and then when he gets into a deeper part of the crowd, starts moving faster up to the police. And that picture underneath, or I think it's the second picture, he's got his hand out down by his stomach, giving a thumbs up to the police as he's going towards the police line. And then he just walks into the police station. Like, it's not, wow. I'm not even saying that that guy's a policeman. I'm saying that that guy believes, whoever he is, that he is helping out the police. And all of the report of that guy since then, they're not saying who he is, like, in any kind of presented way. They clearly know who he is. I don't know why they wouldn't just say it. Yeah. But the other thing is, he's just being held at the police station. Like, I'm sure he'll be charged with something, but he literally shot a man and was attempting to drive his car into the crowd. And that happened yesterday. Like, I don't understand why that stuff is just being ignored like all this other stuff. And then people, there's a picture that I didn't send you, but there's a shot where, because he has a hat on, which is another one of those things of like, it is harder to see your face that way. There's one shot that somebody got where you can see the bottom half of his face, and he looks like his skin is slightly darker than your average white person. So people immediately online were just like, oh, it's black guy, it's Antifa. It sucks.
It like, doesn't make any sense. That wouldn't make sense. Like, oh my God.
Also, the irony and shittiness of the messaging being, if you're not white, you must be anti-fascist, and that's a bad thing. The most like brazen version of how shitty this country is right now.
Makes your brain just explode. Oh my God. What is the term that you use? Kettling? Is that what it's called?
Oh yeah. Kettling is pushing everybody into that space. It's like it's like man herding.
Yeah, I mean the fact that is happening, and with tear gas, like there's been a lot of videos of that happening, and then them just like gassing people. Right. The fact that we're gassing people, period, during a pandemic where the disease is mainly spread through respiratory means, tells you all you need to know about what they care about and what's important in this situation and what they place value on. It's just...
Well, the chances of people being infected with COVID that are out there are higher. The more days this goes on, the more likely you are to have gotten it. Like, it's not like the police don't know that. And the mayor, Jenny Durkin, who I think people should fucking put in jail at this point, like, fuck her. She keeps saying shit like, we've already disallowed the use of it. Like, she said that like
but
Friday
it's still
night
happening.
Or some shit. Yeah, they're just using it still. And I've seen people that are like reporting from those like Capitol Hill protests where somebody will say like, yeah, well, they're not using it anymore. And the people who've been there longer just like, yeah, they ran out of it earlier today. I'm sure they'll have it tomorrow. Like they're using it plenty. They just like they have a stock of it. It's not like it is unlimited. But I don't know. The most frustrating thing, and it sucks because the police should be the most frustrating thing, is all of the people who are siding with the police still, who need to fucking smarten up. Like, that is the big hurdle, unfortunately. I don't think there's any changing the police. I think they're gonna suck, and until we make them stop, there's nothing you can really do other than exhaust them. But the people who are standing up for the police are maybe the real villain right now. Like, it's the position that like oil executives would have in like climate collapse. Like, that's sort of the position that they're in right now, and convincing them that they're the bad guy is going to be impossible for a lot of them.
Yeah. I was talking to a family member about how there was kind of a bit of like a civility argument that they were trying to put forward, like, oh, well, they're not going to listen to you. Progress isn't going to be made if you're not like willing to come to the table and sit down and like talk things over.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're past that. When there was like kneeling and at football games, everyone like pitched a fit, and that's like the least, most minimum, smallest possible, most harmless thing that you could do. That's literally just your First Amendment right, which no one should have a problem with that being exercised. And you can't, I don't know, that pisses me off to hear that like they're not going to take you seriously, and they're not going to make any changes as long as this is happening, because you're not like being nice to them. Uh-huh. Like the people right now whose minds aren't getting changed by this, I really don't think there should be much interest in bringing them to the table.
No,
there's some people they just can't be like, there's some people you can't change their minds.
I think they should be disenfranchised. I think they should not have a say anymore. And I think that's un-American.
Make it harder to be that person.
But yeah, like, maybe stop giving all these protections to people who just get it because they have money. Maybe equalize it. Like, I think the best messages I've seen on privilege have been the messages of stating that privilege is not like your starting point. That's like extra shit you have piled on top of your life. Right. So these people who have been shoved down, when they say that privilege is a bad thing, it's not because they want it. It's because they want everybody in the middle. And like, people on the right are trying to say that that's like dragging people down, but it isn't. Like, it works perfectly. There's that fucking person who was not that there's one person, but in my life there was one person specifically who was making a big deal about how like, of course executives and stuff are still getting their bonuses during all this. It's in their contract. And like, that is the perfect vision of like privilege. Like, no, why would they get that? Like, that money is literally necessary to help people. Like, putting yourself over everybody else is the problem. Like, that's all of your shitty aunts and like shitty grandpas are the problem. And the fact that they don't understand that is the thing that we have to change. The upside is that if people were kneeling at football games right now, I think more people would do it. But we have to like utilize that momentum while we have it, because who knows how long we have before they start blasting out eardrums for no fucking reason or whatever else. Also, the at least perceived potential time limit of like the president that we currently have being like a protective force, that is a thing that we need to change. But it does also provide at least a hopeful goal of like, we do have 6 more months, but if we can hold on to this shit, and I will say, even through all the stress and garbage lately, the beginning of these and now feel like it's been a day that just sucks. Like, the experience of this is not fun, but it really does make time fly. And I think as long as people can find a way to still exist in like what we have, which it seems like the communities at least trying to look out for each other, the communities that usually would, not really the other ones, but maybe we can loot their stuff enough to be able to take care of ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And I think the most hopeful and positive message that we could put out there is that it's working.
Yeah.
Minneapolis defunded or disbanded. They disbanded their police department.
I don't think they did.
Did they not? Is that not true?
So
Am I spreading fake news?
I saw this from a few people, and it was a thing. They have council members who are like literally voted to make this happen. But you should look up the Minneapolis News, because I'm pretty sure their shitty mayor said no. Which I don't know if that's even entirely allowed, but I think that is the last news on that.
Okay, I'll have to look that up. I think I saw that somewhere on Twitter, so I can't really even cite a specific source for where I did see that. I maybe it wasn't disbanded. I'm probably just referring to the council vote that you're talking about.
I think so.
But the point still stands that it is.
No, it's totally
working.
good.
It's totally working, and I mean, it's more progress for I guess justice in the case of George Floyd. The charges have been increased for the murderer and for the people who the bystanders. So it's working, and we should keep doing more change and more progress is happening than feels like has happened in a really long time. But
yeah. Okay, I wanted to look it up so that I could give a updated thing on it. This is from TMZ. I don't think that matters at the moment because they don't tend to fabricate full things unless they happen to be about celebrities or some shit. So this, according to yesterday, says members of the Minneapolis City Council say they're overruling Mayor Jacob Frey and will commit to dismantling the police department, meaning get rid of it completely. But that is after Mayor Frey was publicly shamed for refusing to do it. So it sounds like they will do it. And as far as I know, most of those types of like renewals of like how things are handled are coming up pretty quick in the summer. So that should be a real thing. It's just watching to see how it goes. And did you watch the video where he said no?
I think I saw tweets about. I didn't watch the video. Is that the one where he basically had to do this like walk of shame and he got booed by a bunch of people? Yeah,
he got booed and people were literally yelling shame at him in the street. And him with a mask on looks like a 12-year-old. So that was really funny. Of just this like little boy walking through the street with people like, shame, you fucker! Which is what I want. Like that. I've had this conversation with people a lot, weirdly, over the course of like the last few years, but shaming people is the right move. Like making people like actually sorry for the things they did kind of has to rely on them being uncomfortable. And shit like that works. Like making sure that people don't get to have a good time is the right thing to do. And I honestly think more people should be picketing outside of people's houses like that. Like, people who have power should be getting harassed. Like, if they're gonna treat people like shit, we should treat them like shit. We're not going to punch them in the face, but we'll stand outside their house and scream at them about how much of a shit bar they are. That's just something we should be doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would say do that to the police if they weren't the kind of people who would just shoot you for being near their yard. That was actually one of the funnier ones. Don't read the comments because that's not funny. But the actual video is very funny. A fucking dude in like, I forget what city it was. It's a like an outskirt of a city or something, and there's a protest happening across the street from this area that everybody was saying was his house because his like red truck was pulled into the driveway, and they're protesting, and then he goes to his car and gets like a machine gun, and goes like, "You want to get stupid?" And he's like holding his machine gun like he's gonna start firing into the crowd, basically. And the crowd starts moving towards him, and he like goes and puts it back in his truck. But he's also he has like a big red shirt, and he's like walking like he's like a tough guy with the gun. Everything online from like bot people was basically just like, yeah, he's protecting his property. And then it came out like minutes later that like that guy just parked on somebody's yard. Like he had just come in from somewhere and was threatening people with a gun and parked on somebody else's property to do it. But a lot of people, and you can kind of see that as like something that would happen if you actually harassed police. A lot of people were immediately just like, yeah, he should be like threatening people if they're gonna harm his house or whatever, which they weren't. They were across the street.
That's exactly what's happening in Coeur d'Alene right now. Is we had a counter protest of like MAGA heads out with their fucking gigantic guns and like decked out military cosplay, basically.
Yeah.
And
you want to talk about anime dorks? That's
them.
That's them. Yeah.
That's them. But I saw a lot too many people being like, oh well, they're just there to protect local businesses because we don't want what happened in Spokane to happen here. First of all,
I'm really sorry to hear about how they burned Spokane to the ground.
Oh yeah, R.I.P. Spokane doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, rip in peace, I think smoldering hole.
Yeah. I think the only thing that happened in Spokane is people got tear gassed and they got shot at with rubber bullets, and the Nike store got looted. Sorry.
Not the Nike store.
But not like,
what are those children overseas gonna make for us now?
Right. Everyone was
looting the cents they get for making those shoes is what's really happening.
Everyone was up in arms about, we can't let what happened in Spokane happen here. First of all, Spokane is fine. Second of all, everyone was like, oh, they're just exercising their Second Amendment right. They're just flaunting that. Why do people insist on playing so dumb and playing so just emotionally unintelligent that they can't fathom the idea of a bunch of old white dudes carrying giant rifles is just an intimidation tactic to the protest that's happening? Why can nobody fathom that? Like, it's the context of the situation that makes it not good. Like,
I think we always need the Black Panthers, but we have never needed the Black Panthers more than right now. Like,
yeah,
a bunch of very, very black people, like, they're not trying to be anything socially but the color of their skin for a reason, with guns would be really good. Like, that is important for people to see that. Because people aren't going to make that connection with fucking Hobo Jim, who kind of looks like a relative of theirs. They're going to see a guy who's out there. Like, my grandpa looks like he could be one of those people. I mean, he died a few years back, but when he was alive, if he was holding one of his guns and he had like an America bandana on, he looks exactly like a lot of the people you see at those things. And I can tell when I see them, it's like, I don't really feel that afraid of them, even though I know that they're against everything that I stand for, because that's how you're trained to see them. And people need to see the alternative, because that's what the Second Amendment and the First Amendment are actually about. Like, that's the benefit, is like, I would like to see every person, like every race, should have a group with guns out there, like showing people what that looks like for them. And I guarantee you get like Vietnamese Americans out there with guns, people are going to have a shit fit. Like, it.
Yeah. Oh, there was, okay, sidebar, fuck you to all of the Coeur d'Alene people on my Facebook feed who, someone took a photo of a black dude in downtown Coeur d'Alene who was also in military cosplay, like fist bumping a white dude who was in his getup, and they were like, this is, they were trying to prove the previous point that we were just talking about.
I love that racism is dead.
I just, so many people that I thought were smart were sharing that, and we're like, we solved it, guys.
The very first story I saw of a police chief, I thought it was relevant, and he was kneeling in, like, I forget where. It might have even been like Buffalo again. Like, they've done a bunch of dumb shit over in that area. But the very first picture I saw of that, I and a bunch of other white and non-white people that I know saw that picture and were like, oh, that's a good sign, and reposted it the day it happened. Because it was like, oh, okay, if the cops can just say, we give up, let's figure something out, fine. Like, I think everybody is in the mind that that's like a trap, but at a certain point, having a conversation and not getting shot with shit sounds really cool. And as soon as, like, it had to be like an hour later, I saw like 2 more things go up of like cops doing that. I was like, this doesn't smell right anymore. Like, and then that fucking, we didn't mention it directly, but that old man that got pushed down, the 2 cops that did they even get fired?
They got fired, and then the rest are like 50 something,
57, I think.
Yeah, like resigned from whatever squad they were in or whatever.
Yeah, in solidarity for not punishing cops who hurt people, I guess.
Taking a stand, for what you believe in. I'd be real wary of sharing any cop content at this point in time. Seems like a trap, because especially that photo that I think you're talking about. It was posted, and then I saw it get like retweeted by another person who said, they beat the shit out of us like 5 minutes after this.
That was a different picture. That was one of the ones that went up a couple hours after that first one.
Okay. Yeah.
I think what tricked me about the first one, other than hope, is that
this optimism
is that it was literally like the police chief and one other dude, and that seemed like it might be possible. Because the other picture is literally like a whole police squad. And that doesn't seem possible. That's part of what like knocked me out of it, was like, no fucking way. Like, but having it just be 2 guys was like fine. And it was also not during a big protest. It was during like a march, which they've generally been okay with for a while. Like, marches are happening. It's when they start protesting in a place that they start fucking people over. So, yeah, I don't think any of those tactics are going to work very well for very long, but they definitely work once for people, idiots like me. They'll see that and be like, Oh, cool. For a minute.
Idiots who just want to have hope for
Yeah.
like 5 minutes.
These dumbasses who want to believe the best in people.
They're not making it easy.
But now I'll move into a space that has, less consideration for cops' feelings and more setting up equipment for people to fuck with the cops for as long as possible. Because I think that's where the real action is. I want to go over donation stuff just briefly because I want to do it as a way of encouraging people to also continue donating, like last week. This week, I'm putting my money into. It took a while to figure out what to do. Last week, I just donated directly to the local BLM group for bail stuff. That's still a great option, and people should do that, especially if they live like where you live, out in the middle of, I don't know, some stuff. But if you're able to, that is great, because you can. Most people who care about this, I would say, are probably pretty poor. But there's a good chance that that money that you were saving up because you thought, hey, maybe the restaurants will be safe to eat at. Also, side note, really disappointed in the amount of people I've heard like, oh yeah, I went to a restaurant because you can now. Just try it out. Supporting restaurants is great. Just order from them. Like, we still have a pandemic going on. We can't just start acting like the little things in life are gonna fix it. Anyway,
we just got tired of it.
Yeah. I'm putting my my food money I have saved up into directly contributing to people, and we've got a group, like a small group, and we've got a funding pool, and we're just gonna make sure that we get some stuff to help. We know enough people who know enough people who have at least a pipeline of information for what organizers need to a degree. And so we're just going to kind of wing it and hope that it helps out and see how that works. Because I think ultimately, if you're not in a position where you can get out and protest, or if you're not safely able to like do anything, or whatever it is that is maybe holding you back, maybe keep considering those things, but also donating or helping, just showing some amount of actual action is important. And sometimes that requires driving a car out into police town and trying to avoid getting shot or getting sick.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know what else you're going to do. Also trying to make like signs and stuff like that, because you can put them around. I don't think the city of Kirkland's going to watch this podcast. There is some stuff going up in Kirkland that it's really just visibility. Like, I think it's important that people know that you can live in the waspiest fucking neighborhood possible. People still give a shit about this, because there was a small protest the other day, and it was probably 50-ish people, maybe. But nice. I think there needs to still be more visibility. And if I, let's say, have to super glue something outside to things people don't like super glued to, I'll do it. Like,
yeah.
I don't have a amazing track record with street art, but there's never a wrong time to get deeper into it, and we all have to wear masks, so that's helpful. Yeah. Or we should be. Most people aren't, but whatever. Mm-hmm. For legal reasons, I'm not doing any of that stuff. I'm just saying it.
Just talking about the idea, entertaining the idea.
it's inspirational and aspirational to what I would love to do if I were willing to break the law, which I'm clearly not. You said that there's been some action over there, right?
Like protest wise?
Yeah, something.
Like I said earlier, there on Facebook, there was a protest organized in a city near here, but that got taken down. I don't know the whereabouts or what happened there. I think the people who are organizing it are doing it elsewhere because I haven't seen anything. I've been looking for information or like any sort of like Facebook events or whatever I can find or to figure out when the protests are going to be and where, but I have not seen anything. I've seen like really small ones, like at an intersection kind of by my apartment, but that was like maybe 20 people, not a whole lot.
So you're kind of getting the Kirkland treatment.
Kind of. I am really glad to see there are a lot of like posters and artwork going up, which is nice. And like we have kind of a little public square in the middle of the downtown, and there's like a cork board you can put whatever. That's completely full of like say their names sort of stuff, like a list of all of the victims. And yeah, it's
nobody named like Chuck Brunson the Fourth has come and torn them all down yet.
Not that I've seen. I'm sure that it's happened, but I'm sure it will happen. But it seems like people here are staying pretty engaged. I'm just not in the know yet. I'm trying to figure out where they are.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of conflicting emotions lately, I feel like, just in life. I sometimes wish that our podcast was able to be more uplifting, but at the same time, I think that just by nature of how we do this, it's always going to kind of follow how the world is.
Yeah.
I think that's okay.
I think so too. I enjoy our weekly like freewheeling conversations about our angst of the current events.
Our rant sesh.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that's probably one of the best things that you can do right now is just keep talking about it. Make sure people aren't like going back to normal.
Well, look at how little we comparatively talked about Joe Biden this episode.
Yeah.
That's what we're all really
tune in for part 2. Oh my god. Yeah.
Well, it's been nice talking about this.
Some soothing tones to kind of bring down the heart rate a little bit. Now for our guided meditations section.
There you go. I've been doing a lot of that as meditation lately, so
yeah.
Welcome to it. You also heard my spooky guitar as a completely unrelated thing, because I think we should close this out, but I think we should each maybe say something not a downer for the end of it. I'll give you this time to think while I talk about my stupid neighbors. So I'm not going to say I'm completely blameless. I've definitely been playing instruments where I bet people could hear it. If you listen closely in the audio, you'll probably hear wind chimes because my window's always open because I fucking hate stagnant air. Up from us, we live in a building with 9 units in it. in the middle on the opposite side of this building, perfect to reflect off of everything in this like street area. There is a group of people who it's either 3-ish dudes or they're just having people over all the time despite the corona stuff. And about a week and a half ago, I was sitting out here working on stuff at like 2 a.m, and I hear this sustained stream of piss coming off of their balcony onto the ground. And the way that it ended was like, oh, that's nothing but piss. Because it has that like, like at the end of it, where it's just like, oh,
no.
Yeah.
No.
So like a week and a half ago, I was already like, what the fuck? Like, don't piss off of your balcony. And then nothing came of it.
Oh my God. It's the Wild West out there.
Yeah, it totally is now. 2 nights ago, I heard it again at like 1:30 in the morning because I love to check the time when I hear the piss. And there's like a spot of like maybe a minute or a minute and a half, and then there's just a screaming argument between 2 dudes from that apartment that for a second I thought it was a like, well, I can't call the police. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do about that. Which honestly I wouldn't anyway unless I heard like a gunshot. But at the same time, it was like the way that they were conversing was not far off from that. And it's very noticeable when you hear it in the middle of the night. And one of them, when I actually listened to what they were saying, it sounds like one of them was angry at the other one because he let the third one piss off the balcony. That's what it sounded like.
Oh.
But the argument seemed to be about he's too spineless and he needs to grow some nuts. And that's what he was delivering in a way that sounded like, get away from my child. Like, it was the weirdest. They're already like the broiest apartment in the world. Their apartment is like a mess, even visible from the street, but there is a pool table in the center of it. And that's like the entirety of the space of the front room. You've seen our apartment. There's not that much space, but the front room could fit a pool table.
Yeah.
And that's what their entire apartment appears to be. So that's the group of people screaming at each other about getting some nuts.
Oh.
So that's my upside, because that was fucking great. Like, in hindsight, I loved every second of it. It was just very like, whoa.
That is some nice entertainment, at least.
Yeah.
Something to...
It did kind of interrupt my work, but, you know, that'll happen when there's a sustained stream of piss off of a balcony near you.
Having been to your place, I can visually picture.
Yeah.
And it's not good.
That's a matter of opinion.
I guess that's just me, but maybe I need to grow some balls to get in the mindset.
I mean, there must have been something good over there.
I'm trying to think.
Some cops put a picture on Twitter saying that some explosives were thrown at them like yesterday or something, and the picture was of a broken candle in a cardboard box.
Oh, okay, yeah. Actually, that's upside for me is the memes that people have been making about those posts. The these objects were thrown at cops today. I see. What was the one that I saw that was really good? Someone had taken like a flat lay photo of like a bottle cap, a White Claw, like I feel like there was a piece of fruit or something,
Yeah.
and then another beer can, and they were like, these items were thrown at cops today, and someone else is like, that just looks like my diet. That's like my daily diet.
Yeah.
And then there's also that nice screenshot from some episode of SpongeBob. I can't remember the context of this episode, but he has a penny, a tissue, and one other item. Do you
Oh,
know the
yeah,
image
yeah.
I'm talking about?
I think it's a penny and a tissue, but there's something in the middle.
Yeah, I can't remember what it is. But they were like, these items are thrown at cops today. So that's my upside.
There have been some really funny anti-cop memes, even if they're not funny universally.
Yeah.
They're well made. I appreciate that quite a bit.
I did share one that was uh this podcast is fully just me just in an audio medium describing visual memes to people.
Madison, please take us on a tour of the internet.
Okay, this is what happened, guys. So it's I don't know what anime it's from, but it's a screenshot of an anime I put on my story where over the boobs it said
Oh yeah, I saw this.
What did it say? Hold on. I'll post this. I'm not going to describe this. It's too much work. There's too much going on in this meme.
I think it gets the idea across pretty well, honestly.
Yeah, me too. I thought it was really good. So, stay tuned for that meme.
Yeah, also all the newly police-themed redraws of Sailor Moon have been headed in the right direction.
That's good.
Sailor Moon had some crazy-ass scenes in it, and some of them included evil police. So that works out well.
There you go. Well. Begone thoughts?
Bajabbers.